I always gotta blow them up like a million times, and then you get to the map and you gotta unblow it up and move it and slide it. It's like,
Most people
it's
don't
weird
use
because
their
usually
basements.
PDF file,
Like I think
it's
about
just
mine,
gonna be one
we use
page,
it
but they get
more
these
in the
down so
winter, but
small.
less than probably 20% of the.
Delivered laundry.
Mm-hmm.
Why you're not doing it anymore. It is what it is. And I don't mind coming up here. It's not that far away.
But the stuff they got at Willowbrooke
Well,
now
and then
looks
what
really
happens
nice.
is you put
They're doing a good job so far.
Dallas.
And these are, and these, I've seen some Woodbury that look very similar.
It's not on.
What that looks like.
These look like they're gonna,
Call to order for the Planning Commission, October 6, 2022. First is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Luke, you want to do roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Willowbrooke,
here,
Campbell,
Present.
McCauley,
Here.
Pearson,
Here.
Stolarski.
Here.
I would like to note that Commissioner Diata is out for a family emergency, and also Councilmember Swedberg was unable to make this meeting tonight.
Okay, thank you. Our first order of business is a public hearing from the Roers companies. Roers at Willowbrooke 7th edition PUD amendment, preliminary and final plat, the variance for noise, and a site plan. Luke, you have a report for us?
Yes, thank you. If, the slides can be shown on the screen here. We'll have a location map. See if we can switch these to these views here. Sorry, bear with me just one moment. If, Dallas, I know you're an IT guy. Any suggestions here as to how to switch the views?
Slide one of two, that,
What are you
You
trying
just
to?
want to get full screen?
Well, then I lose my notes here.
I'd just go with that and leave it if you want, if you need your, well, I don't know if your notes are showing up at the bottom or not.
It's okay. I got a backup plan here.
Drive for a second.
Sure. I got it here.
Okay, all right, if you got it, then I'm just gonna stay on.
Okay, sorry about the technical issues there. So here is the Willowbrooke area. I think a lot of folks are familiar with it, but just to be clear, here's Interstate 694, 34th Street. And this particular property is located at the southeast quadrant of 694 and 40th Street. And it's located within the Willowbrooke Planned Unit Development Area. And this is a vacant parcel consisting of just under 20 acres. And the purpose of this request tonight is to enable the construction of a 190-unit market rate apartment building, and it's going to be 4 stories high, and also 79 rental townhomes. The request involves a PUD amendment to allow for a few deviations from the Willowbrooke PUD, a noise variance from highway noise, a preliminary and final plat subdivision to create multiple lots, and site plan approval as well. A little bit of background on the site. The city's comp plan guides this area for mixed-use residential, and it was rezoned to the Willowbrooke PUD back in 2020. And this area is undergoing various phases of development as we speak. And immediately east of this site is a development with 62 single-family homes, which was recently approved as the Willowbrooke 6 subdivision. And here is an overview of this proposed development. So again, this is 694 40th Street, and then there will be a new road for this site on the east side of the property. It will have 2 new accesses, one here and then one here as well. So the apartment building on the north part of the site, again, that's a 4-story apartment building, and then there is the 12 townhome buildings, and these are rental townhome buildings on the southern portion of the site. As you can see, there's quite a bit of surface parking, especially for the apartment building, but the apartment building will also feature underground parking. For stormwater provisions, there's a stormwater pond here just northeast of the apartment building. There's an infiltration basin here on the east side, as well as an infiltration system underneath the parking lot. A couple other amenities worth pointing out here is the sidewalk connections throughout the site and a clubhouse and a pool in the middle of the site. The new road here, which will be called Hayward Avenue North, that will also function to provide access to a new city park here, and as well as there'll be some additional parking spaces there. A little bit more information on that in just a moment. In terms of the overall parking for the site, well, the apartment building will have 392 stalls. And for the townhomes, if you include the driveways and the garages, there will be 316 off-street parking spaces. So the parking requirements have been met for this development. So here's a look at the subdivision. So Lot 1 to the north would be for the apartment building and the clubhouse and the pool. Lot 2 is for the townhomes. Not shown on this image is Outlot A, which would be for stormwater. Worth noting here is that the city engineer recommends that Outlot A be for the stormwater pond only and not for the eastern infiltration basin, so that would be an update to the subdivision plat. For Outlot B, that would be the future city park. Outlot C is just a remnant with some wetland, and that would be dedicated to the city upon approval of the plat.
I got a question.
I'm sorry, this is not quite
Until
the
we open
time
the
for the
public hearing, please.
public hearing yet. Yes, there will be a moment here for public comments. As part of the plat approval, several conditions of approval are listed in the resolution. Moving on to the noise variance as part of this development. It would be required, and the developer provided a noise study, but it does not fully capture the exterior noise as noted by both Minnesota DOT and city engineering. More data must be provided by the developer prior to the request going to city council. But even without the additional data, city staff is confident that the noise levels are exceeded because if you look just west of this site, on the west side of 694, there's a noise barrier that's in existence. So the noise levels have already been exceeded. Now, however, the only abatement allowed for mitigating noise per the noise chapter of the ordinance, that's chapter 19, it's through the use of landscaping earthen berms as approved by the council, but given the overall build out of the site and the height of the apartment buildings, again, that's a 4-story building, earthen berms is not gonna do much to mitigate the noise there. The use of berms does not appear to be a feasible option in this case. So staff would be comfortable with recommending approval of the noise variance, provided that additional noise data is provided by the developer. So moving on to the site plan and going into the PUD deviations here. The majority of the site meets site plan requirements. However, there are just a handful of updates that are needed. So the developer must update the site plan to show the location of outdoor trash and recycle areas, which must be fully screened from view. When I say fully screened from view, that's from the eye level from the street. And that also applies to the ground mechanical equipment, as it must also be fully screened from view. So in regards to the site amenities, the developer should incorporate a pedestrian connection between the townhome buildings 2 and 3 and 3 and 4 here to the south, just to improve the connection to the future park there on just south of this site. The developer should also utilize the suggested tree species and seed mixes that are identified in the Willowbrooke Landscape Framework Plan where possible. The landscape framework plan informed the overall development of the Willowbrooke development. So there are some really good recommendations in that. For stormwater management, the developer will need to confirm with city engineering that the proposed plans will be feasible, as well as establish easements for off-site stormwater infrastructure and grading work. Also, in regards to stormwater, the developer must obtain the proper permits and approvals through the Valley Branch Water District. So in addition to the site plan updates that I just mentioned, there are a few PUD deviations that are necessary, which I will highlight here. So the Willowbrooke PUD density requirement for this area is 35 to 55 dwelling units per acre. The proposed density of the site is approximately 18.4 dwelling units per acre, and that's due to this site was originally planned to have 2 apartment buildings, and the developer has scaled that back to including townhomes here on the southern portion of the site. So the density is dramatically reduced. However, the proposed density does align with the comp plan's density for this area, which is 4 to 55 dwelling units per acre. And staff believes that the proposed density is appropriate for the area, given the proximity of the site to single-family homes just to the east. More to follow here. For the exterior building materials and design, the apartment building, which is the top image, as you can see, that incorporates at least 70% of Class 1 materials in the design, and that's per the ordinance requirements. However, the townhomes will incorporate approximately 40% of Class 1 materials. So the developer's architect notes that Class 3 materials are being used, which would be more consistent with the single-family dwellings that are nearby. And staff concurs with this, and given the site's proximity to the overall Willowbrooke neighborhood, the existing single-family and townhomes, that appears to be appropriate. So there are 2 landscaping plans being proposed for this site. It gets a little bit complex here, but we can talk through these, and if you have questions, please let me know. So option 1, as you can see on the left, includes planting in the DOT's right-of-way. If I can use my cursor here. This would require obtaining approval from the Federal Highway Administration for the Highway Sponsorship Program. My understanding is that it takes 6 months, probably longer, to obtain approval from them. But the benefit here is that compared to option 2, being able to utilize that right away, the developer would be able to plant more trees for landscaping purposes. So option 2 is the backup plan in case the highway sponsorship program does not get approved. So the difference in the number of trees, option 1 would be 208 trees, whereas option 2 would be 156 trees. Option 2 would also result in a slight shift in the buildings and infrastructure just a little bit to the east. But for both options, a PUD deviation is needed for a couple areas of the parking lot that are not fully screened with landscaping. However, given the design of the site, the placement of nearby buildings, and other landscaping features, the staff feels that the deviation is appropriate. So for the 2 site plan, this would be handled as approving 2 site plans. This has been done before with the forefront warehouse building. If any of the commissioners recall that, the warehouse building was approved as a single building and then also as 2 separate buildings. So 2 site plans in this case would be approved, but the developer would simply choose which one to use over the other. Any questions on that? Okay. And the last PUD deviation being requested from the site is site lighting requirements. And there's just a small portion along the western edge of this lot 1 that exceeds the site lighting requirements. And staff feels that the proposed landscaping would help mitigate this to an extent. But staff also recommends that the developer just obtain approval from Minnesota DOT for this, the proposed lighting. So, whoop, there we go. So going back to the issue of the park access and parking, so this concept plan shows the extension of the future Hayward Avenue North Road. It's a modification from the original plan of the Willowbrooke PUD. You can see the original plan calls for 2 cul-de-sacs. You can see the faint outlines there. And there is a condition of approval in the Plat resolution regarding this issue, and I would like to note that the city is working collaboratively with the developer and owner to best refine the roadway and also to better meet the city's needs here with this new design. And we're talking EMS, fire truck access, ingress and egress, and also this design compared to the original is much more efficient for snow plowing as well. The parking is also being reduced, but it will be more appropriately sized for the park amenities there to the west. And also, I would like to note that there is an adjustment of the pedestrian access for this site as it better provides access to the park and also the surrounding neighborhoods. So, in closing, staff recommends approval of this request subject to the provisions and conditions that are listed in the draft ordinance and resolutions. I guess I'll look to the chair if I should read all those conditions, but they're in the packet, they're in the draft resolutions and ordinance.
At this point, I think you probably ought to read all the conditions.
You would like me to? Okay. Not a problem. So for the Plat resolution, number 1, the conditions, approval of an amendment to the Willowbrooke PUD to allow deviations from the required density, exterior building materials and design, landscaping, and site lighting standards. Number 2, execution of a site improvement performance agreement, approval of the public improvements construction plans by the city engineer. Permits and approvals must be obtained from other regulatory agencies, and proof of approvals must be provided to the city prior to recording of the final plat. Satisfaction of park dedication requirements. Lot A shall encompass the stormwater retention pond only, and Lot 1 shall incorporate the eastern infiltration basin. The developer establish the necessary access and maintenance easements for all grading and stormwater runoff conveyance occurring off-site. Number 8 here, the final plat must be revised as necessary to meet all requirements of the city attorney's plat opinion, and that the buyer/developer shall further adhere to all recommendations of the city attorney regarding the matters and recording instructions for instruments associated with development. On to the next page. Revision of the plat to incorporate the updated Hayward Avenue North Road alignment, trail, and associated parking spaces to the satisfaction of the city. Upon recording of the final plat, the developer shall convey to the city outlots A, B, and C. The developer shall rough grade the future park area located on outlot B. The sidewalk access be redesigned to provide direct connection between the townhome buildings 2 and 3 or 3 and 4 to the park area on outlot B. And finally here, the developer shall design and construct the entire roadway and adjacent pedestrian improvements at their own expense, unless an alternative agreement for these improvements is entered into between the developer and the city. So that's it for the plat resolution. Moving on to the site plan. So this is option 1. Approval be obtained from the Federal Highway Administration for plantings to occur in the right-of-way along Interstate 694 through the Minnesota Department of Transportation's Highway Sponsorship Program. Permits and approvals must be obtained from the Valley Branch Watershed District. Update the site plan to show the locations of all outdoor ground mechanical equipment and trash and recycling areas along with proper screening of these features. Obtain approval from the city's fire marshal for the proposed fire hydrant locations. The developer utilize, where applicable, the recommended tree species and seed mixes from the Willowbrooke Landscape Framework Plan for landscaping. Number 6 here is an update from the original packet that went out, but it is the developer provide a tree preservation plan in accordance with Chapter 22 of City Code Number 7, additional vegetation be incorporated along the south side of Lot 2 to serve as a buffer. Number 8, the developer incorporate a pedestrian connection between the townhome buildings 2 and 3 or 3 and 4 to the future park on Outlot A. Obtain approval from the Minnesota Department of Transportation for the proposed site lighting. Number 10, there is approval of the site civil construction plans for the water, sewer, and storm sewer system by the city engineer. And finally, the developer must establish the necessary easements for the stormwater conveyance and grading to occur off-site. So the only difference between the site plan options 1 and 2 is in option 1, the first condition, which is about the highway sponsorship program, but otherwise option 2 is exactly the same.
Thank you. I asked that because there were several in the audience that I don't think would have availed themselves of the packet to have seen that, so. Just so those in the audience know, the meetings are structured in a way so that Luke gives a report on this. We then go through some questions and answers. We ask the developer to come up and answer some questions, and then we open the public hearing for the public to come and make comment. That's the time when you can, we'll ask any of you to come forward if you wish. So hold on, we'll get there. So the next step is, gentlemen, ladies, any questions for Luke on the report?
Just one, Luke. Is there any pedestrian connection to that residential to the east? Or is everything coming in from the north on 40th?
So it's a little hard to see here, but maybe with with my cursor here, there is a connection here. And then if I can go back to this image, there will be connections as well as
Oh,
proposed.
yes, I see that. So, okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Are they planning to make a connection into the forefront property up towards the business area that's planned to go in there?
Not proposed at this time.
No other questions for staff from me.
At this point, if there's any further discussion from the Roer Company, please step forward. Just a second, I'll turn it on. And can you turn on the microphone at the podium, please? Yep, she's
He's
working
working
on
on
it.
it.
Okay. Oh, I think it's on now.
Good.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners, and thank you, staff, for the report. Not too much to add here. I'm Andy Bolig with Roers Companies, the developer on the project. Just wanted to say we really appreciate all of staff's work on this and all the help of the seller. We're excited to get this project going. The one item I'd mentioned just on the noise mitigation, we do have quite a few building means and methods that we'll be implementing, including we'll have higher upgraded STC windows, and we'll do sound testing as well in the units. So we've built similar projects along active rail tracks before, and it's pretty amazing. You can't really hear anything when you're in the actual units. On the balconies, though, I mean, you would still have some higher noise if you're facing that highway, but we've seen similar projects completed throughout, the nation, and they still lease up well, and residents are able to enjoy them. So it's the only comment I had to add, but happy to answer any questions.
One question I've got is the noise testing that was done was deemed inadequate at this point, so you're going to retest?
Yeah, we'll follow up with staff on that. I think we just have to clarify. We'll do whatever additional testing is necessary. We don't do that ourselves. We have a third party that does it. But
Do you
yeah,
have any idea when that would take place?
whenever it needs to take place, we could do it in the next few weeks here as soon as we're able to get on their schedule.
Okay. Any other questions?
I do have a question about site layout. I'm curious why you chose to go high density, lower density park versus putting the higher density multifamily on the south side of the site close to the kind of flex industrial space, and then kind of lowering that density as you go north towards 40th.
No, it's a good question. We were following the original master plan as best we could. It had two high density projects, so we, working with staff, we were planning to have the more high density along the street frontage to create that more urban setting, and then having it step down as you get closer to the park, so it's just more a gradual approach to the park. The park location was determined prior to Roers being involved with the project, and I believe that was a part of the Park Commission of the city.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. At this point, I open the public hearing, so anyone who wishes to, from the public who wishes to make comment, please come to the podium, give us your name and address, and proceed.
My name is Joe Steinmaus. I live at 7279 40th Street. How are we going to get all these cars? You're going to have 500 cars there on 40th. It's just ridiculous. You know, one little road going out of the court over to Highway 14 or 5, whatever it is. You know, what about the neighbors? There's no stop sign. You're going to put a stop sign up there? You're going to put a, you know, a regular stop sign up? I guess I don't understand it. Anybody got an answer? How are you going to get all those cars out of there? Coming out of Menards now, you can't even go to Menards to go to the gas station anymore. From Holiday to the intersection, you cannot get out of there.
Okay. Luke, was a traffic study done? I'm pretty sure there was early on when this was
the
all
PUD likely.
recommended.
Yes, and this whole area, the 200-plus acres was, you know, they considered sewer capacity, they considered infrastructure, including the traffic flows. So all that was accounted for when the original plans for this was created several years ago.
Yeah, I guess I would also note that you know, as designed, this is significantly lower than the density that they're allowed. Luke, do we know what that is offhand? I mean, they could have up to 55
It was
dwelling units.
treble what it is now, I believe.
Yeah, so they could have, by the zoning that's currently in place with the PUD and that was approved back in 2020, they could have 55 dwelling units per acre. So this site could potentially handle up to 550 units. So the 260 that they're doing is almost half of what's allowed. And when it was designed, that 550 is accounted for in all of the traffic analysis and everything.
Sure, sounds really good, man. How'd you like to live over there? Waste the people's time. Have a great day. I'll move. You guys, my lot's for sale. I got 2.5 acres. You could probably put up 300 houses on that right across the freeway. Stop by, drop a card, you can buy the property. Thanks a lot, have fun.
Anyone else who wishes to make comment, please come to the podium.
Question, it's a real easy.
Come to the podium, please. You give your name and address if you would.
Thank you. Mary Beth Assad, I'm at 4095 Hadley Avenue North. Just, Luke, I think it was, you mentioned rental. Is it all rental? I just didn't get, ooh,
If you could pull the microphone down towards you.
oh,
she's
sorry.
Increasing the volume to try and catch your voice.
Okay.
Thank you. From the indications I saw, it would appear to be all rental, yes.
Yes, market rate rental for the apartments and townhomes are also rental, but, you know, if the commission wants to invite the developer to speak to that a little bit more, you certainly can do that.
If you'd like more comment from them, we could add.
Excellent, thank you.
They are all rental. I would say that we have a lot of rental townhomes of this stuff, and we generally see a lot longer lease terms there, like 3+ years, as opposed to apartments that'll be anywhere from 2 years to, so, I mean, I think 60% is average for turnover, so somewhere in that neighborhood. But the townhome product, you do see people staying a lot longer in the neighborhood, which is great.
Any further questions?
Wish I was smart enough to ask more questions.
As do we all.
Just one other comment that excuse me, Joe was more eloquent than I was, but I also am concerned about traffic.
Not that this answers your questions, but I do recall when I first started in the Planning Commission was when they were doing the public hearings, and they held a number of meetings up there for people to come and comment. I think it was held at the Discovery Park. And that was when they were going to do the roundabouts, which they're not doing now, over on the eastern border street. So they were doing traffic studies through that. Now, if they've done anything recent, I don't know, but as Chris pointed out, it was originally considered for a much higher density than it is going to be.
Well, that's comforting, but I'm not moving, so I'd like to know that you would keep looking out for, we're right on Hadley and 40th, and when kids are getting off the school bus, it's hard to get out of the driveway.
Yeah.
And
I think I would say that, well, we respect your concerns and certainly understand them. Unfortunately, this isn't.
Right.
That ship has sailed, so to speak.
and
So
I kinda gathered that.
What we're looking at today is, how does this site lay out? Are there, is it within the guidelines of zoning that we have?
And I appreciate your patience, but Chris, is that something that you as a governing body, ongoing, you're looking out for the good of everyone?
Absolutely, yeah. It's at the appropriate times. So when we did this PUD a couple of years ago, as I said, we looked at traffic analysis, and depending on the development, there may be things that require additional traffic analysis, but as I said earlier, right now, their density is half of what they're allowed, so.
Which thrills me. Thank you.
Okay. Would you like to come forward, sir?
Rich Firkins, 4319 Hadley. Do you have the original master plan so we can see how this fits within that anywhere?
It'll take me a moment, but if the commission wants.
In the meantime, who's responsible for the reconstruction of 40th Street?
I don't know for sure. I believe part developer, part city, but I'm not positive of that.
I mean, I'm just,
I'll defer to Luke when he's ready for it.
just because it's been closed since May and there's no indication that's going to open any time in the next year or two. And I'm, if it's not Lennar who's responsible, Lennar Homes? Is it Lennar Homes who's building the housing there?
So if I can speak to this, the 40th Street is the city's responsibility for the realignment there. This application is only focused in on a narrow portion of the overall Willowbrooke area, but, city engineering would probably be, or public works would probably be the best point of contact for, closures and when the road might actually be open, so.
I'm just wondering if the housing market is coming to a screeching halt, what happens if some developer decides not to go through with something?
Well, as Luke says,
Is 40th Street going to sit there as a dirt road for?
Luke said 40th Street is under the city completely. I wasn't sure if it was complete or not, but he says it's completely under the city's jurisdiction.
But the alignment, was dependent on what the developer suggested, right? The city didn't come up with that new curvy alignment.
It did during the comprehensive planning session that was done 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
The city came up with that, or the developer suggested it?
There were 4 options that were created during the time when the comprehensive plan was redone. And that was when they held all of the meetings with the neighborhoods for people to come in and make comment. 2019, was it?
Okay. All right, so I can call somebody to find out about a timeline on the road opening, or?
City engineer, city development.
Okay, thanks.
And your earlier question about the master plan, that would be in the comprehensive plan, which is available on the website as well.
Yeah, he's pulling it up right now.
This is one of the options that came up with the comprehensive plan development.
Sorry, the cursor's moving very slow here, but you can see the site in question there on the west part there.
Roundabout's gone now, is that?
The roundabouts are no longer on the eastern border road.
In the center?
No. Over on the right-hand side, there were 3 roundabouts up that road.
So the one in the center still exists?
Unideal.
Sure, but the one in the center still exists? This is a current plan?
So this doesn't quite accurately reflect the changes that have been ongoing. So it has shifted quite a bit in terms of the north-south road there.
Okay.
Is the current plan publicly available, or?
I would recommend contacting the city engineer. They are the only ones who have the absolute current plan. This is probably what's available on the website. Okay, I'll offer anyone else wish to come forward to speak to the issue right now? I'll do it a second time. Anyone else wishing to make public comment before I close the public hearing? Third, seeing none, I now close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. Any other questions or discussion amongst the commission?
I guess my only comment is everything, all of these variances seem reasonable. The ones that, noise, lighting, they impact primarily the future residents of the Roers development, so I have no.
Well, lighting, actually, only the DO affects the highway, 694.
Oh, our lighting to them.
Yeah, the
or
noise
project
impacts
lighting to them.
Roers development, but the lighting is on that western edge.
Even better.
So by the time it gets to the highway, actually, it's probably down to the half
Down to
light
that,
candle.
yeah.
Foot candle. Any other questions or comments? Okay. I look for a motion to recommend approvals of the PUD amendment, noise variance, preliminary and final plat, site plans for the Roers at Willowbrooke / Willowbrooke 7th edition. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is Luke for the planning and development update.
Yes, thank you. Just a few updates here before adjournment. So I just wanted to note that there was a development bus tour that occurred this past week on Tuesday. I know, Tom, you were there. We had a lot of good feedback. It sounded like it went pretty well. There is a survey link for that bus tour, just to get some feedback, see how we can improve. And we're hoping to do it again next year, so keep an eye out for that next year. The other thing I want to note is that there is still a vacancy on the commission, so if you have any folks in mind who might be a good fit for the commission, please let us know. Or I should say, please encourage them to apply. And then finally, the last thing is that we do expect to have a meeting in November because we do have a new application. It's a multifamily development right next to Hy-Vee. So, yep, plan for a November meeting. That's all I have. Thank you.
Is that to the north of Hy-Vee?
Immediately to the north there.
Okay.
All business is completed, so I move to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you and good night.